Hi, everyone. Here today with us at the Conscious Parenting Beyond Mindfulness call. And welcome to all of you present here with me today. Courtney, Raquel, so happy to have you. And to all of those people joining us in the future. So today's call is our monthly Conscious Parenting call. It's a free call if you're joining us for the first time, and it will be held once a month, the first Wednesday of each month, and just sign up on the link that is always all over my website and join us. So brief introduction. My name is Ellie Molina. I am a former educator. I am a linguist. I am really a reality creator, teacher, and I happen to be psychic at the same time. However, my passion really is in educating and educating consciousness. And where do we start with consciousness? It's such a big subject. So I've decided to narrow it down into little pieces here and there. So today we're going to be doing conscious parenting. And even if you're not a parent, for those people listening, if you're not a parent, there's still inner child work. And when you're doing inner child work, we need to parent ourselves. So the information that is here is not just for parents, it's really for every single one of us, with or without children. All right. So thank you. And today's topic is expectations. So there is a very strong possibility that this conversation may continue into another conversation next month, just because of the scope of expectations. So a little bit of history first with expectations. Expectations are embedded into our culture. They are embedded into our programming. They are embedded into the way that we do things as a society, cultural. They are just embedded into our humanity, going all the way back to cave person. There is this blueprint that we have been carrying along with us. So now, even though we have this blueprint, we think some of these expectations are on us. We think that we are the ones that are expecting all of these things. And the expectations run so deep. They are so subtle. So expectations are the cause of our misery. And that's really quite, and you could use different words for misery. I like to use suffering. What is suffering? For me, suffering is any time that I'm out of balance, okay? I don't have to be suffering bent over, but suffering for me is if I'm not in harmony with myself or I'm not aligned, then I am suffering, just even if it's a little bit like that. So I'm out of balance. The moment that you are out of balance with anything, the first place to go look is there's nothing wrong with you. And this goes for your children. This is for you, for your kids, for spouses, for people that you meet. There's nothing wrong. Remember, we're going to the space. There's nothing wrong. It is what it is. It just is. And then we look at the expectations. Now, the moment that we feel out of balance, you can look at it was an unmet expectation. And again, these things are so sneaky and so subtle. So one of the ways that we want to start catching the expectations is in language, in self-talk, and even talking to other people. Our biggest indicator is the word should. So people who work with me in my consulting programs know that I avoid should like the plague. However, that is me, and out there, no matter if you're reading books and you're listening to people speak all around you, should is ubiquitous, and should carries an expectation. And right there is, quote unquote, the problem. So for example, when you're doing shoulds, you're making yourself wrong if you're not meeting the should. So, oh, I should go to the gym today. All right, and I didn't. Okay, bad Ellie. Okay, bad Ellie. You failed on yourself. It opens up a whole bunch of negative feelings. And so when we start to look at this, especially parenting or well, it's not even about parenting, in relationships with others. Oh, I should have said this and I should have done that and I should have behaved this way and I should have behaved that way. Well, then I would have been, this would have happened. And then we're going into what another topic, which is hallucinations. Hallucinations are not reality. These are, oh, if I should have done this and then I would have. That's a hallucination. It's made up. It's not even imagination, because 90% of the time it is disempowering, and anything disempowering becomes a hallucination. Empowering is imagination. So let's get back to expectations now, especially as a parent. So we look at ourselves, or look at ourselves in a relationship. If anybody is watching this and they're not a parent, so we look at the expectations that we have for ourselves. The expectations that we have for ourselves are based in an unreal paradigm that we have inherited. So and I'm going to use the word should here for this exercise, because even though I don't use it, it makes things a lot easier. Oh, we should have done this and we should have done that, and I should have done this, and yada, yada. The list goes on and on, making ourselves wrong. And now we take this list and we bring it to other people as well. So example, you're working with a 2-year-old, okay? She should be doing, and you open up the book, all right? You open the parenting manual, and she's supposed to be speaking XYZ words by 2, and she's not. Oh, so there's something wrong. Well, what if there's not something wrong? And what if she just hasn't met the expectations of the people writing the book or the norm, but there's nothing wrong? So we want to start to look, and I am not saying to ignore things, okay? I'm not saying that. Only you do want to start to look at the expectation that you have, where it's coming from, why you have this expectation. You want to analyze it before you just run and take all kinds of actions and make other people wrong. You really want to look at this. Well, he should be doing this, my son. He should be doing this, my son. He should be here. And then we fall into the trap of, when we start using the should with the expectations, we're expecting them to be what? Mini versions of ourselves, question mark. Fitting into society, question mark. What are we looking to do with our expectations? And so we really have to become very mindful and conscious of what expectations are we putting onto people, consciously and unconsciously? What messages are we sending in our communications? So example, I was listening to the conversations of a parent talking to a 5-year-old in this case. And the parent was saying things like, oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And you shouldn't say these things. And I was, I'm an observer, and I'm not going to get involved in somebody else's parenting skills, especially without giving any context to, like, why would I step in and say? And what I was noticing about the child is that this already started to create stories. Remember, these are stories that we make up in early childhood. So now there's a story coming on. Oh, I have to make my parent happy. I'm not making my parent happy. Remember, little children want to make their parents happy. And so sometimes parents will actually say, oh, I'm not happy. This is not making me happy. Oh, unfortunately, if we've fallen into the trap, we are setting ourselves up for genuine failure. And this is not a healthy thing to be doing with our children. And for some of us, it's a little too late, but we can have this, we can have this awareness and use it in relationships, or in the case of being a grandparent, in my case, use it with grandchildren. Okay, so let's get back to expectations. Expectations are, again, embedded in everything. You want to look at the expectation. You want to dissect the expectation. And then you also want to look, when you're talking at other people, look to formulate your language so that there is not an embedded expectation for them. Now, that's, again, everybody wants their children to do well. That's why we're here. We want our kids to do well. We want our kids to be the best version of themselves. We want them to be happy and healthy. And we can achieve all of that without the shoulds and without those expectations that are brought into us through hereditary, through society, through our culture. We still can create healthy, happy, imaginative, creative kids, children, without having those expectations loom so heavily on other people or on them. So now, Another thing that I want to talk about with men. So just moving into men, they're men's, so if you're in a relationship, perhaps, you know, if you're a parent and there's a co-parent, and or even if you're in a relationship, or even if you're dating, so this has nothing to do now again with parenting, this has to do with what we have learned about males, and where men have a lot of their expectations embedded or in their values. Oh, interesting. Okay, so a lot of their expectations are embedded into values, the things that they value. So now the question becomes, well, how do we find out, what does it take to know what a man values? Where do we get that information? Are we going to run around with our notebook and ask, oh, what are your values? What are your top 10 values? What do you value? So the way to start to look for what a man values is to look and listen to his opinions. His opinions start to demonstrate his values. They are embedded, and they're also, his opinions are also embedded in his expectations are embedded in his values. All right, now there's an interesting twist with this. Okay, now I'm getting into male-female relations, but hey, we're talking about parenting. Okay, so it's not just one of us parenting. Sometimes there are two parents in a family. So most of the time there's still two parents in a family. Anyway, what happens in the dynamic is that with men have expectations of women. And when a woman does not meet an expectation, even though they don't know, okay, I got to backtrack on this one. Expectations are so, let me go back a little. It's such a complicated topic. So expectations are embedded, right? So here we are, we have an expectation. Now, the moment that the expectation, let's talk about women, the moment that the expectation is unmet, women have a tendency to get resentful. Unmet expectations cause resentment unless they are discussed. So if you continue to have, if we continue to build up on unmet expectations, oh, I was expecting him, and this can go for your kid now too. I was expecting him to make his bed every single morning. I was expecting him to do his homework. I was expecting him to do this. These are right? These are the expectations. And even if we're not talking to them and saying, oh, you should do your homework, oh, you should do this, we're still expecting them to do this. Over time, we keep talking, we become noise, all right? We get filtered out, and then these expectations become resentments over time if they are not discussed. Now, here's the catch. We have expectations on other people, and they have expectations on us. Only most of the time, 90% of the time, we don't sit down to have a conversation about, do we agree on these expectations? So I expect you to take out the garbage every evening. Only maybe we never spoke about that. So maybe you're sitting over there and you don't even know that I have that expectation. Or maybe I have an expectation about something else, but I haven't asked you if you agree to my expectations. So there's no discussion in it. And this is what leads to the resentments, because there's no agreement. And when we can sit down and start in partnership, okay, let's have these, we have these expectations, but okay. And let's take a look at them. Let's look at our values. Let's look at our expectations, and let's look at where we can agree on these so that we each know what the other person wants. And then we won't fail in meeting other people's expectations, because like nobody asked us, you know, to be that. And just really one of my favorite ones is my oldest son. And maybe one day he'll hear this and, you know, oh God, anyway, my oldest son has an expectation that I am the grandmother who comes over and puts on an apron and maybe starts making pancakes for everybody on a Saturday morning. And that is an expectation that he has. And it's been communicated to me many times, you know, like, oh, you know, grandmas come over and they make breakfast for their grandkids and the family. And I said, yeah, there are a lot of grandparents that do that. Okay, I'm not one of them. And, you know, there may be a time that I'll make dinner. You guys can come over and have dinner, only it's going to be highly unlikely for me to be coming over to make pancakes for you on a Saturday or Sunday morning. So That's just an expectation that you're going to have to deal with. So had that not been communicated, there's always this built-in resentment, like, oh, your grandmother doesn't make pancakes. It's like stupid stuff. But you know how this goes. So now getting back to men. Finishing with women. So we now have these expectations and we don't tell them, and then we start to harbor resentment. And then what happens is we start to get to the point that, we expect them to do it, and we just keep going on and on and on and turn it into resentment. Men, on the other hand, when they have an expectation and it is unmet, they twist it. They turn it into, I call it, well, twisting. For me, it's like, they turn it into like a negative. Oh, you know what? She didn't do this. Therefore, we can't count on her. So my expectation of her to do that is going to drop. So they basically, we lose points, I guess, if you want to look at it as points. Okay. We just gather our expectations, turn them into resentments. And with men, when we don't meet their expectations, we start to lose points in their thinking. All right. I'm going to leave this one for more questions. So now let's get back to the values. So with men now, their expectations are embedded into their values, and that is how we have to listen for their opinions, what they're saying, what they think is important. Their opinion on something will then demonstrate what their values are, which will then demonstrate what their expectations are. Okay, now I've just, I said I was going to divide this into 20 minutes of talking and then some time for questions and answers. So I'd like to open this up if anybody has any questions, and then I can continue. Or, if there are any thoughts that you have that have come up that this has opened up something in your thinking, please, ladies, you're my live participants right now. So, share what you've heard, if you'd like, or what you're thinking, or, what's come to your blah, blah, blah.
Can you hear me okay, Ellie?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm at the gym. I think when you're talking about expectations with kids, it's really, it's a challenge to understand where the balance, the healthy balance of expecting them because you're teaching them versus putting our own belief systems on them, right? So it's like, I want to like mold my daughter to the way where she's conscious of like right and wrong, and she has good listening skills. But then where, how do you define, if it's me overstepping what my belief systems are and putting them on her? You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. Well, you're going to do that anyway, whether you like it or not, because that's what we do. There's no way that you can get around the belief system. That you can, when she gets, you can start to give her other conversations. But this is, so you basically answered your own question, and I'll show you why. How? Okay. You're teaching her. So if you teach her, then you're just providing the information. And you could even use a phrase like, this is how I see it. This is how I have done it, if you want to use that, or this is how people have done it in the past. And you can use that. So it's not like, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, and have this understanding. So it's really in language and consciousness. And you are teaching, Courtney. So that is the biggest difference. You're not just dictating, you are teaching. And the moment that we step into the role of teacher, there's more space for contribution or conversation, as opposed to you stepping into the authoritative, this is done my way and mine is the only way.
amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And questions. Thoughts.
Let's see, Ali, if we can just pin down a little bit this difference between the resentment thing comes to the heart for me,
Mm,
because I have felt that resentment
mhm,
only with men, but I can always also see it with friends. And
mhm.
recently I've been more in the space of being upfront when something has been sitting in the back, instead of really leaving it there, just bringing it up to light and communicating how I feel about it. But when it comes to men's, so they have also built some expectations, and this, I believe, is in connection to taking control as a man, overpowering a woman. I think it's in connection with that, right?
No, I'm going to rephrase it, okay?
Okay.
And here's why. Your language is reflecting your particular viewpoint of men.
Mm.
All right. So for example, if I were looking at man's expectation, okay, so my experience, let's go back, because we all have our own experience. We all have our own views. We all have our own perspective of the way that we see the world. There's no right way to see the world. There's no one way to see the world. There's no wrong way to see the world. It's all experience and all perspective. So using words like overpowering us, okay, that is already, there's something embedded in your own story about the way you're relating with men in your own story. So that is without being too personal, okay, you want to start to look at where do you have stories around men overpowering women? That is okay, because
I've only mentioned that, Ellie, because I'm reading now a book which is about training the voice of a woman. And this lady has worked with Margaret Thatcher and many other people. And she talks particularly how women's voice has been suppressed for centuries and centuries.
absolutely.
Because I'm not saying about the overpowering, because yes, I have been in situations where I have given my power away to men.
As have we all have. And here's the thing, I probably misunderstood it now, because as a culture, we still are, and this Raquel, this is getting into other, this is getting a little bit
Complex.
if you remember, again, for anybody who's on this call who has never done quantum leaping, we go into fields of consciousness, fields of language. So this is one of the 4 fields, remember, we were talking about. And so that is hereditary. Your author is absolutely right. But this is ingrained in us from cave woman. Let me beat the woman, pull her by the hair kind of thing. And yes, so only where I'd like to take this now is in terms of, let me change the audience a little bit then in terms of men and my understanding. So men in a conscious parenting relationship are going to be very different than men in a unconscious parenting. Unconscious parenting will take us, and unconscious men will take us into the world of caveman and exactly, overpowering or the old authoritative for one of those 4 fields. Okay. Yes. And thank you for asking me to clarify this. So my audience, when I'm talking about conscious parenting, are really men who are conscious themselves or are in the process of becoming conscious themselves. These are then men who are emotionally mature. An emotionally mature man is not going to be an overpowering man. It won't be in the conversation. When you're dealing now with conversations with men who are unemotionally developed, all right, or emotionally mature, yes, this is a whole other ball game. All right. So you'll have to, and then again, you don't want to be a teacher for that. So this is just sidestepping. You don't want to be a teacher for that particular man. So that may be somebody that if you were looking to create relationship, you would rule that out immediately and look for somebody who'd be a conscious partner, a conscious person. Am I answering your question? I think I'm going on a tangent here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that you are explaining it that way, which makes more sense because we did briefly touch on the different type of fields of consciousness. Is where I want to go is the difference between, so I've written down for women and unmet expectations towards men become resentment if they are not discussed.
Okay, and here's the thing. Yes, let me interrupt.
Okay.
It's not- I'm
For
sorry,
men,
can I
for
correct
men-
that? Can I
Yeah.
correct myself? It wasn't just for men, it was for women too. Whenever we have unmet expectations that we have not shared and we have not spoken about, and our people have not met them, whether it's male or female, that turns into resentment.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
correction over there, okay?
Two differences that I wanted to make is that you mentioned something about men's. I heard you say when men's have unmet expectations towards a woman, is that as if they are taking points away from us. So how, for me, that comes down to, okay, they take away points from us. Does that mean that they start to devalue us?
No, okay, so it's all in language. So for example, if you have, let's say you're in a relationship, okay, and your husband, you've agreed now that your husband is going to, you agreed that, no, your husband and you agreed that you're going to pick up your son from the school every single day at 5 o'clock. And so there's an expectation and an agreement, there's an expectation that she's going to pick up the kids at 5 o'clock. So she misses it one time, okay, calls him up and starts to say, hey, I can't make it. And then he goes and yeah, he has an unmet expectation. Okay. But one time starts happening over and over and over again. What happens is then he lessens, he has, he doesn't expect her to do, so it becomes, I'm looking for language, I can see it, okay? So now he lessens that, meaning, oh, well, she can't pick up the kids, okay? She falls short of picking up the kids, so I'm not even gonna expect her to go pick up the kids. I'm not even gonna like ask her because I can't even count on her to do that. I can't, that kind, those are where the points start to go. Well, and then if she can't pick up the kids and I can't expect her to pick up the kids, then maybe I can't expect her to, make it to dinner on time, or I can't. And there is where it goes down like that. So does that make sense? And then the viewpoint of the relationship is, yes, there's like a loss of esteem. Yes. So, did that make sense? Because it's basically also an integrity. Let's go back. It's also like an integrity issue. Remember? So if you give your word, I'm going to pick up the children at 5 o'clock, and you miss it one time, and you call and you clean it up and say, yeah, I'm late. I'm going to not be able to make up. That's an integrity. Starts happening over and over and over again. This becomes an out of integrity issue. Out of integrity issues, have very connected to expectations. Remember, integrity is very important. Honoring your word. It will cause resentment. It will cause friction. The devaluing, degrading of the integrity ruins relationships, even with children, with everybody, with friends. That's where, okay.
So it's like the man is feeling let down by the woman for not keeping up with those expectations that have been set initially.
It's being, okay, the expectations are that they're, okay, let's say if they're in integrity issues.
Because in this sense, there has been an agreement that the woman is going to go and pick it up at a certain time,
Right.
and the man is going to come and pick up the child at a certain time. If the woman has, over a period of time, not picked up the child,
that is an out of integrity issue, and so what happens when we are with people that are chronically out of integrity, we begin to lose respect for them, we begin to get angry, we carry resentment.
That's the word, Ellie. Respect. For men is respect.
Right. Yes.
For us as women, for me, it becomes more an issue around resentment. What I feel for them is more a matter of respect, lack of respect.
Yes, right. Respect, dishonoring, not honor, dishonoring, disrespect. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Raquel. Thanks for also clearing all that up. Because like I said, this is a really big conversation. And again, these things, now watch, now, these are the dynamics that go on in the household. And then here you have your children, and your children are sponges absorbing everything, okay, watching everything and seeing the dynamics and the facial expressions that go along. Women roll their eyeballs, okay? Men do different things with, men may leave a room, walk out, so again, the message is being sent to the child. Oh, and this is what's going on over there, so. Okay. So that is something that we want to start looking at, expectations that we have of other people. And that includes even friendships, so example, when you're in your own life, not you, I mean, but in a person, if we have an expectation that people, okay, here's the thing, we think, again, remember this goes back, we think that everybody is like us. And therefore, if people are like us, then we like them, okay? They're like us, we are similar. The more that somebody has the same values as we have, they have the same expectations, the more that we like them. And so other people have their own views, they have their own expectations, they have their own values. And when these are not communicated through, because we're gonna example, you have two friends and two women, all right, one person goes out, they go out for lunch, and they maybe take turns paying for, but it's not spoken, okay, but they take turns paying, boom, 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 boom. And even though it hasn't been spoken, like, oh, I'll pay for you this time, you pay next time, even though it hasn't been spoken, maybe one of them will start to change the rules, okay? It's like, hey, you know what, I don't really always want to be doing tit for tat like that. That's also another woman thing, tit for tat. Men don't do tit for tat, they don't keep score like that, women keep score. So maybe I don't want to be paying, so next time we'll pay for each other, we'll pay for ourselves, and we'll just move on. And the other person doesn't agree to that for some reason, okay, because that's the way that they've been brought up and that's what their expectations are. And then that turns into a resentment towards that friend. And before you know it, you're not talking and you don't know why you're not talking. And you're like, oh, what did I do? What did I do? Yeah, and we don't even know if that was even it. Okay, could have been something else, that it was an unmet expectation. It hadn't been communicated. And now this is what we're left with, the swamp, the murk and the mire, okay? And this happens for children all the time, and young adults even, in like everybody, just whether they're two with expectations or, 2 years old and having expectations now that this is going to happen at a certain time through a temper tantrum, or they're 18, 20, 21, and they have an expectation of the way it's supposed to be, and it's unmet. And then what happens? Frustration, disappointment. I call it, stepping into the swamp.
Yeah. Shoots takes us into the swamp.
Yeah, and then we know what to do when we get into the swamp. Okay, at least you guys know what to do when you get into the swamp. A lot of other people, that's, these things are not taught in school, and they're really not taught a lot of places. You really have to go work on finding this information, to get yourselves out of what it takes to get out of the swamp. All right. So questions, anything? Ooh, yeah. Anything else come up for you, Raquel?
Oh, there is quite a few things that have come up.
Oh, good. Well, maybe there'll be, so here's the thing, since rather than me just talk, because I really, if you want to use this time, because here's what I've noticed, that whatever we're talking about right now, the people who, you know how this goes, the person who's going to be watching this is going to say, holy, you know what? All right. She asked a question. This has been on my mind. This is exactly what I need to hear. So if you feel comfortable asking that on this big universal recording, hey, let's go for it,
Well, I think that coming up to the lady that just left, Caroline, she's brought up the conversation that has to do with her daughter. And as you know, I also have my son. And expectations are going to come up all the time. How do we balance that out? How do we I'm noticing it a lot more, right? For example, today was a perfect example. I've asked him to come with me on a Friday because I've bought a table and a couple of chairs secondhand, but I still need to go and pick it up.
Mhm.
Quite strong, and I need some help.
Mhm.
I asked him to come with me on the Friday, and he's refusing to do it. He
Mhm.
doesn't want to do it.
Mhm. Okay.
His plans. And I stopped myself before I said, well, if you want me to do this for you, then you need to do that for me.
That's right. Perfect. Beautiful.
I actually stopped and I did not say anything. And I said in my mind, that is conditioning him. So he doesn't want to do it because he's got other plans. It was my decision in the first place to purchase this table and these 2 chairs. I'll have to deal with it.
Okay, and I'm gonna make another suggestion also. And this is number one. Let me congratulate you for doing for shutting up and not doing the threatening manipulation. Okay, if you don't do this, then blah blah. All right, that was so powerful, super super powerful. And that is what so many people do. Okay, but that's just conditioning, unconscious conditioning. So now I'm going to offer you 2 alternatives. One thing that you can say is, remember in the language, I need you to do, I really need, you could actually go back and say, I apologize that I would just want to let you know, I was counting on you, even though I hadn't asked you. So you want to get honest, okay? I was counting on you to help me pick up these things, even though I hadn't asked you if you were free. So I do need to pick these up on Friday. Is there any way that you could come with me on Friday and change your plans? Would that be able to work for you? I recognize, so you want to really honor and acknowledge that you didn't ask him if he was available to help you, because that was just that was just like an expectation, like, oh yeah, well, he'll be free, he'll come because I expect him to do that. Therefore, he's going to be doing it because I need him, blah, 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 blah. And yet we didn't ask and he didn't agree.
This is powerful what you are saying there. Really
Yeah,
powerful.
it is.
Because
It is.
we just take them for granted.
That's right. And that goes with all family members. It even goes with friends. It goes with spouses, people that you're dating, and your children. And so you can just recognize, I know, I know I didn't ask you beforehand if this were possible. And then you could even say in the future, if I have something like this come up, I'll check your calendar before I set the date or something like that, Because otherwise you can be like, oh, Mom, I can't come. I have this plans. And then it leads into, oh, now you're disappointed. Now you're pissed. Okay, look at all. Because we women, whoever you are, if you're a woman listening to this, or you relate to yourself as a woman, one of the things that we do is we keep score. And this is what we've been trained to do, whether from cave women back, who knows where this comes from. This is cross-cultural. So it's really interesting. This has nothing even to do with culture. So I don't know where it came from. But one of the things that we do is we keep score. We keep score. And that is why men really hate fighting with women, because they do not even stay present. They bring in all the garbage from, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do this and you didn't do this. Everything comes into the conversation because we keep score and men don't. So it's really, and that's the same thing with your son, because he's not going to be keeping score. But he may be harboring resentments that are unexpressed, that you always ask me to do these things and you never ask me ahead of time if I can be free. You just take it for granted. And we do that also. We do that. And so this is a good place to start to step back and become conscious and mindful that other people also have agendas and plans, and it's up to us to ask.
Yeah, and that we just assume that because they are our children, we make all these plans. We dump them on them, and we are assuming that they are going to be okay with it. That's I think that I dealt with it way better than in the past, thanks to you. Thanks to you.
Thank you.
I've dealt with it a lot better. However, there is still there is still window of opportunity to improve it, which is the very first thing that you mentioned is, first of all, now to bring this conversation up again with him and tell him, I was counting on you on the next piece. And ask him, well, if, and then finish it by just saying something like, if you are free this Friday at 8 p.m., you don't have anything, I would love you to come and help me with this.
It would make me really happy. It would make me happy. Okay, it would really make me happy. I could really use your help. Help happy. Help happy. H words.
H words. The H words.
Mhm. And also when we do, I did use the word counting on, when we do use the word counting on, we also want to make sure that we don't have that turn into, again, it could be cultural. I'm counting on you to do this, you know, that could be an expectation, again, could be cultural. So, you know, like if I took more time to think through what I was going to come out of my mouth, I may say something like, you know what, I really didn't even ask you, but I planned on you being the one to come help me. Okay. So, but I didn't even ask you. So I apologize that I didn't even ask you before, you know, kind of like really get it into that space where you can get into his head as he's another human being. Okay. And that you're not the mother, but that here's another human being standing next to you. That is, yeah, sure, he's your child, but he's also another human being with thoughts and everything. So yes, you know what? I did what I always do, you know, and you could turn it into a joke also. It doesn't have to be heavy, you know?
Yeah, for that, we need to go into workshops to learn humor.
Ah. Yeah. You just tell yourself, you know what? I'm going to get this in there. This is going to be great. I'm breaking the pattern. I'm breaking all of the genetic, hereditary, family stuff. I'm starting new slate. This is how it is. I'm a clear communicator with my son. I speak to him as an 18-year young man who is now going into adulthood. That's how I relate to him now. No longer necessarily as I'm mama and you're my baby, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. Very powerful.
Yeah, this is very powerful. And what he's going through at the moment as an 18-year-old young man who wants to do things in his own way, I have to bite my tongue in a multitude of ways, because my background is in exercise, in personal training, in injury prevention. Now he comes in nutrition. He comes in and he wants to stuff all these, for me, nonsense, but I cannot do that. Then again, we come back down to these expectations, making him the human being that I want him to be, and doing the way that I've done things. But this week is really been awakening moments for me to really pay attention on those things and say, no, this is his way. He is learning the way through life so I have to let those things go.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And also, you know, I just want to share this. I was talking to somebody recently. I have 3 sons and I have 4 grandchildren. And with my youngest son, I'm actually visiting my youngest son right here. I'm in Austin this week. And one of the things that I've learned from him this week, and this is where I have to give up all of my expectations about myself and who I am as a parent and what parents are supposed to do, how parents know more than their children because they're more, you know, they're older and they're wiser and yada, yada. And I'm here and I am learning how to cook with an air fryer. And my son is making meals that are more delicious than a lot of meals I've made in the past, okay, with his air fryer. And I'm just sitting here taking notes. Oh, this is what I do. Oh, this is what I do. It's just easier than using YouTube, but it's a whole new learning experience. So it's not just, oh, mom knows everything. And that was like on me, okay? Like, wow, look, I don't know everything anymore. And things are changing and I am open to learning and having conversations and catching myself and apologizing for when I turn into the mother that knows it all, okay, and to catch that, all right, and and it can be funny too, you know, so just a little story again, little anecdote to show that I too have these, not that, things come up. I was putting coffee grinds down the drain this morning, and my son said to me, Mom, that's not a good idea. They're going to clog up the drain. And then I said, oh, no, they're not. I have heard, because I know, I've heard that coffee grinds clean the drain when you put them down there and rinse it with water. That's what I've heard. So my son asks, go Google, is it true that coffee grinds? And then the response was it's an old wives' tale that coffee grinds are good for the sink. However, coffee grinds and grease have been known to be the two biggest cloggers of sinks. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess, does Google know? Maybe Google knows. Maybe it's based on plumbing. So that's the end of the coffee grinds down the sink for cleaning.
I've done that mistake as well. On the same exact belief, because you hear it over time, that
Yes.
putting coffee grinders down there is going to be beneficial. And then somebody comes and says, no, it's not. It's going to do completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And about the air fryer, and I honestly, is my son is here to tell you that this is true. We went today to buy an air fryer.
See? And the meals are great. So let him teach you, let him show you what's out there. He probably knows way more than you and I do together. All right. So yeah. So, it's a matter of just just to sum it up for today, people who are listening, it's a matter of not taking ourselves so seriously and thinking that our way of doing the world, our way is the right way. And we only have that perspective, and that we recognize that other people have their perspectives also. And that if we can just be mindful of our expectations of other people, our expectations for ourselves, our expectations for our little children, for those people who have little children, to begin to take a step back and look at that so you can raise consciously aware little children. All right. And there's lots of time to you've got a great opportunity, Raquel. He's at that space right now, and you can continue to teach him in such a way that it's a conversation, and he can learn from not you lecturing, okay, but teaching by being, all right, so that we really step into that. Awesome. Well, I'm going to end here, unless there's anything that you want to contribute for people watching. Maybe you've got something that you want to share with anybody in the future who's watching this.
Right now, nothing that comes up to mind. This is like a kind of a daily practice that I'd say I'm doing with the work that I've done with you. It's a daily practice. And one of the things that benefits me the most is just step back a little bit before my mouth wants to open up and say something. It's as if I'm watching myself stepping back.
Yeah, exactly. The observer, and to become the observer, to watch, and then, yeah. Oh, Raquel, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your personal testimonials and experiences with us and future viewers. I know somewhere, somehow, other people are being impacted and hearing this, and they're going to take note of it and change the way they're doing things in the world.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much for your
Yes,
help.
I want to thank you for being here today. Ciao. See you next month. Bye-bye.